The URSA Mini Pro is a camera that I purchased in 2016. It's a camera that I've used on my video shoots, whether that's been corporate work or live events or weddings or my own short films and music videos. I've used it non-stop since I had it. I absolutely love this thing. I've got more photos of me with this camera than I do probably with my children. So to give you an idea of where I'm coming from, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about the sort of work that I've done and why I've used this camera, how I found it, and then talk a little bit about the positives and negatives of it and who I think this camera might still be for in 2026. Before I review the camera properly, I want to give you a little bit of context as to who I am and the sort of thing that I've used it for. So I've been a professional videographer / filmmaker since 2010, and I've had Blackmagic cameras since the original Blackmagic cinema camera came out. I was starting out as a videographer. I wanted to take myself more seriously. I wanted to learn how to use a cinema camera, and I found that the Blackmagic cinema camera was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed it, but it was very limited by frame rates. You couldn't shoot any faster than 25 frames a second or 30 if you were in the US. I wanted something that I could shoot slow motion. I love the colors on the camera. I love playing with the footage, the ProRes, but it was very limited. And when Blackmagic announced the URSA Mini Pro, it just had so much stuff going for it for an incredible price. You know, this is well before you had your kind of your FX3s or your Lumixes and your GH4s and all this sort of stuff. This was a solid camera that was giving you a lot for your money. And I made the leap. So back in 2016, I purchased this camera. I used it solidly from 2016 through till kind of last year is when I slowly started to move on to other cameras, which I'll talk about in a minute. But this has been my workhorse. I used this camera all the time. I've shot corporate events with this. I've shot talking heads with this. I've shot films for, you know, local businesses and charities and captured events. I've shot my own short films. These films have been on YouTube, but they've also been blown up and shown on IMAX screens, believe it or not, and they've been shown at, you know, Comic-Con in the US, over in Miami and Chicago and LA, which is just fantastic, although couldn't go because of pandemic reasons, which is great. So I've got a lot of experience shooting with this thing. I was basically shooting with it every week for years and years and years and years. So I'd like to feel that I'm qualified to give you an opinion on if this camera's for you, especially today in 2026, given other cameras that are out there right now. The advantages of this camera are huge. You've got really good codecs, you've got ProRes, you've got Blackmagic RAW, you can shoot in 4K, you can shoot in 60 frames a second, you can shoot 1080 at 120 frames a second. Most of my projects, especially work projects for corporate, are delivered in 1080p. Nobody's requesting 4K yet still, hilariously. So this camera is still, in the specs wise, it's still above and beyond what I actually need as a videographer. So if you're looking for high specs, this 100% is going to tick the box for you. This camera is still above and beyond what you actually probably are going to need as a videographer. It's a fully manual camera, which I really, really like. I really appreciate. It's very tactile. There's buttons everywhere for everything that kind of makes the whole experience of shooting quite fun. You can feel your way around the camera, you get to know it. If you shoot with this thing all the time, it becomes muscle memory. All the buttons are allocated on the outside of the camera, so you can change your shutter speed, you can change your aperture, you can change your ISO and everything with very tactile buttons on the outside, and it just becomes second nature without having to go into any menus. You just know how to operate the camera, and it's really, really quick and simple and easy to do that sort of thing. I find that the weight of this camera is pretty substantial. It's quite a heavy camera. I used to pair it with the Sigma 18-35 1.4 lens, and with that, with a V-mount on the back and everything rigged up, it's a pretty heavy camera, but it's an advantage and a disadvantage. I'll talk about advantage first. I found that the footage from this camera is incredible because of the weight. Whether you're shoulder mounting it or whether you're shooting from the hip, it's got a lovely weight to it, which means that, you know, the center of gravity is well behind the lens. If you've got any bounce or any sway or any of that handheld movement, it just looks better on this camera. And for me, you can see it in the footage. I don't personally like gimbal footage. I find it to be really mechanical and a bit juddery, and you can often miss the mark if you're doing a live event. Where this, when you're shooting handheld on this thing, the images that you get from it are just professional. They just look great. It looks really, really nice. It's got a nice sway to it, a nice bit of movement to it. So the weight of this thing is a huge bonus as well. I think it's a big cumbersome beast. It's also a disadvantage. It really does you back in. If you shoot a wedding on this thing, which I've shot, if I'm shooting with this 10 hours on a wedding or an event or a conference, you do feel it only a few hours in. So that's one thing to bear in mind. You've got CFast cards on here, or you can get an adapter so that you can shoot SSDs. I used a third-party adapter and I shot to SSD, and I never had any problems with any of the media at all any of the times that I was shooting with this thing, which is great because I've been shooting with it for 10 years. The footage is an absolute pleasure to use in post-production if you edit your own stuff like I do. Blackmagic has its own color science, so you might hear Sony or Canon or whoever saying S-Log or V-Log and all these things. It's just called film mode on this, and it's basically the same. You've just got a nice flat log profile that lets you bring the colors up and tweak to your heart's content, really. And I've never had any problems in post-production with this footage. This still stands up today alongside any of my other cameras that I use. So that's talking about the advantages of the camera and things that I think are really, really good about the camera. I would say the disadvantages of the camera are, again, the weight of it, and also that it is a very manual camera. For me, having everything in manual, so manual focus and all this sort of stuff, is absolutely great because I feel like I'm a filmmaker first, and to have control over my focus, I don't want the camera to be hunting around for focus and not knowing what I want. I want to, if I'm shooting a wedding especially, I'm not going to be using autofocus because I want to be able to snap to where I want the focal point to be. If I see something happening in the background, I don't want to have to try and tell the camera or trust the camera to do it for me. I want it to go to that point. But it is a disadvantage if you're perhaps shooting a talking head, a corporate talking head, or if you're shooting a live event and you just a self-shooter and you want the camera to take over that kind of focus kind of thing, you are going to be sitting next to the camera manually doing it yourself, which is a bit of a disadvantage. And again, the weight. If you're a gimbal shooter, I've said that I don't really shoot on a gimbal. If you're a gimbal shooter and you want a camera that you can just stick on a gimbal and whiz around an event, this is not really for you because the weight thing is going to do your back in, but also your gimbal is probably going to freak out a little bit by how heavy this thing is when it's paired with a lens and a decent battery. It's just not going to work that well on a gimbal. It's possible, it's totally possible, you can mount it, but I would not recommend it. I also have to mention the reliability. This is actually the third body I've had since I bought this camera. They failed twice. So one failed just after I was filming the music video. It just cut out and died. And the next time I just finished, luckily, a corporate shoot for a client. I was on the last shot of the day and it just gave me a black screen. I sent them back. Blackmagic were absolutely fantastic. I had a new camera within 2 days, I think, on both occasions. But this is an old camera now, and I think if you are worried about, if it's your only camera and you're worried about going out shooting and it might not be that reliable, it is something to bear in mind. Just question, if you're buying one of these now, how long has the previous person had the camera? How reliable has it been? How much stuff have they shot with it? Because it's something to bear in mind. You're probably not going to get that much support on this camera now. Do I still use the URSA Mini Pro? The answer is sometimes. I now have a Lumix S5 IIX, which I use as my main camera, and I have a Blackmagic 6K Pro, which I use as a B camera. URSA Mini Pro has been relegated to my C camera. It's not to say it's not a good camera, it's still really, really good, but I find that the portability of the 6K Pro has a lot of benefit for me when I'm transporting all my kit. And I found that the autofocus and the weight of the Lumix is a huge advantage for me as, again, a one-man band turning up. I'm doing an interview with somebody. I want something small I can just stick on a tripod and just focus itself while I'm conducting an interview with a client, for example. The URSA Mini Pro, I always used to have to kind of watch focus out the corner of my eye and adjust focus like that, where with the Lumix or any other kind of DSLR that's got autofocus, that's a huge benefit, I think, to a one-man band. What do I use the URSA Mini Pro for today? Well, I actually use it as a third camera, so if I've got a big shoot going on, multiple people, it sits really well. The footage is absolutely fantastic. It holds up massively, the frame rates and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to have any problems with that. Another thing that I use it for is live events. This thing is an absolute beast for connectivity. You have XLR inputs, so you take a feed from the microphone or from the deck. You've got a nice captured audio in camera. It's got SDI outputs. It's got 2 of them, so you can send a feed to a monitor if you like, and you can also send a feed back out to a live screen. This is my go-to camera, and it's the reason I still have this camera. I'm not getting rid of it because it's an absolute beast when it comes to connectivity. And if you want something that can do a job, if somebody gives you, can you do this, can you do that, can you do this? Some of my other cameras, they might not tick those boxes, where this is pretty much guaranteed to be able to do anything. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this camera to somebody who's wanting to get into live events, but I think if you've got this camera and you're thinking about getting rid of it or trading up, perhaps weigh up, is it worth having this camera in my bag or in my arsenal for the ability to shoot live events. If there's something that you think you can potentially do, or something that you've not tried before, it's definitely worth considering for that. Who do I think this camera's for today in 2026? If you're watching this video, you've either got an URSA Mini Pro and you're thinking about getting rid of it, or you wanting to just reaffirm yourself why you've got it, or perhaps you're looking at cameras and you're considering the URSA Mini Pro because they're, you know, a decent price now. Who is this camera for? I would say, in my professional opinion, based on 10 years of working with this thing, that this is for people who want to learn filmmaking. They want to take themselves seriously as a filmmaker. They want to learn how a camera works. They want to be able to have something tactile that they can really feel filmmaking. They want to be pull and focus themselves. They want to be able to flick buttons and feel like they've got complete control of the camera. Who is this not for? I don't think that this is for somebody almost like myself, who is a kind of a one-man band and rocks up at, you know, corporate office, sticks the camera on a tripod and is doing interviews and doing live events. I don't think that this is necessarily for you. I think you need to be looking at mirrorless, lighter cameras, things with autofocus. I think it's going to be a lot more helpful, and I've found that having autofocus on the Lumix is almost like having a camera assistant with me. I can kind of trust that it's just going to get on with it. The URSA Mini Pro doesn't come with that sort of thing, and I find that that means that I have to be a lot more involved in it, and it's almost more difficult to be a kind of a one-man band with an URSA Mini Pro because you need to be thinking so much more. But that's just my opinion. I mean, it's 2026. This is quite an old camera now. You know, it's probably 10 years old this year, which is crazy, and it's still a really relevant camera, and it still holds up for me with frame rates and resolutions and codecs and operability and all this sort of stuff. It's still a really, really solid camera. What do you think? What are you shooting with? Are you thinking about getting one of these? Have you got one of these and you're thinking about getting rid of it for something else, but you're not quite too sure what's out there? Let me know in the comments what sort of thing that you're shooting on. Does this camera still appeal to you, or is it completely redundant and am I just holding on to it for sentimental reasons, which is possible? Let me know in the comments. Give me a subscribe, please. This is only my second kind of proper YouTube video. I'm quite keen in getting into this sort of thing, and it's great to chat with you guys about cameras and lenses and all that sort of stuff. So I'd love to hear more of what you guys are shooting, and a subscribe's gonna, you know, make sure that when I'm doing this sort of thing that you're seeing more of this sort of stuff, and, you know, we can keep that conversation going. So yeah, thanks very much for your support, and yeah, let me know down in the comments if you're shooting with this camera or not.